back to Two Guys in a Game Shop. My name's Phil.
And I'm John, and the game we're going to be doing today is Axis and Allies 1914, First World War.
Now, normally when people think about Axis and Allies, they think about World War II. That's what they have always done. But this focuses on the war to end all wars. This is the components of the Axis and Allies World War I game. You get one large map, actually two boards. You get a battle board, and you get quite a number of dice that you use in the combat.
You also have playing pieces for 8 different nations. You have infantry, you have fighters, tanks, artillery, battleships, cruisers, submarines, and transports, as well as ships.
Here's a better look at the pieces that come in the Axis and Allies World War I game. You can see that they have a real good World War I theme to their pieces.
They did an especially nice job with the infantry. As you can see here, all the infantry look different and kind of reflect their different nationalities. So they have German, Russian, United States, Ottoman Empire, France, Italy, Austria-Hungary, and the British Empire.
In this game, when you get new reinforcements, they all come in at your capital area. So the French would gain them in Paris, and they have to work their way towards the front. Now, land units, all land units can only move 1 space a turn. Air units and sea units move 2 spaces a turn.
Cruisers are the exception to the rule. They can move 3 spaces. Now we can kind of show you what an attack would look like. Moving in my pieces into the French area, if I'm Germany, I can move 1 space into where they're at. I don't have to pull everything from just one province. I can actually bring them from other provinces also. In this case, I'll choose my fighter to also bring my fighter in.
Now when he moves into this area, even though I control it, I don't get the income because this area is now considered contested. This is the battle board that you use when you resolve combat. If you have any attacking air, you would set up your air power here. In this case, the French sets up their 1 aircraft. Then you would set up any defending tanks, defending infantry, defending artillery, and artillery with air supremacy support.
Attackers also set up with attacking artillery, artillery with air supremacy support, attacking infantry, infantry with artillery support, attacking tanks, and tanks with artillery support, as well as my fighter also. Looking at this now, I have to set up who's going to have my artillery support. I'm going to choose my infantry, so I'll move them over to infantry with artillery support. I can't choose to do both unless I have 2 different. If I had 2 artillery, I could set up tanks with artillery support and 1 of the infantry, or I could just do 2 infantry.
Since we have 2 aircraft from opposing sides, we now resolve the air combat first. You roll 1 dice for each aircraft that you have in the battle. You hit on a 1 or a 2.
So in this case, the Central Powers have hit on a 1, destroying his aircraft. I now have artillery with air supremacy support, so I'm able to move up to a 4 over here. I now will do 1 strafing run on my enemy, which I did miss. So now we go with attacking. I look at my attacking infantry. There's 2 separate kind of chips. There's red chips for the Central Powers and blue chips for the Allies. The darker chips for both are worth 5, and the lighter chips are worth 1. So in this case, I have 7 infantry here. So I will roll 7 dice, and I hit on a 2.
Or less.
Or less. So in this case, I have 1, 2, 3 hits.
So I would choose 3, and I can choose these 3 chips to be as potential losses, but I don't lose them yet.
So now I'll do my infantry with artillery support, which is a hit. I will go ahead and do my attacking tank, which was a miss. And now I'll do my artillery with air supremacy support, which is a hit.
Now I get to return fire with all of my units, even the ones that I have lost. So in this case, I lost a total of 5 infantry, but I still have 1 left, but I get a roll for all 6 of them. So I roll as the defense, I hit on a 3 or less. In this case, I rolled very poorly and did 1 hit. Now, since he has a tank, his tank can actually take 1 hit and not be lost.
So we'll choose to do that then.
Now I roll for my 2 artillery, 1 plus a chip equals 2, and they hit on a 3 or less. And I hit with 2 of them.
So we'll choose 2 of my infantry to lose.
That is 1 round of combat, and that is the end. So all the losses that we take are removed, and the remaining forces are put back on the map in the spot, and the spot remains contested with these forces left on the spot.
I honestly believe that Axis and Allies 1914 is a great entry into the Axis and Allies universe. They added a lot into this game that made it different enough from the other games. It feels like I'm playing a different game, but familiar enough I can pick it up if I've ever played another Axis and Allies game before. The one thing I've always loved about Axis and Allies period is just the pieces. They do such a good job having a variety of different pieces, and the 1 round of combat in here really recreates that feel of World War I, being in the trenches, jumping out, charging, jumping back to your trench.
Oh yeah, it really captures that meat grinder feel of World War I.
The other nice part is how it kind of parallels history. Honestly, when the game starts, it's going to start in Austria when the Duke was assassinated. I think that's a nice touch. Also the fact that Russia can actually end up in revolution, which is the way it ended at the end of World War I also. Even though you're not destined to have Russia have that happen, if things fall the correct way, like it did in the war, it will happen in the game also.
Yeah, the Central Powers can tip the scales so that the Russian Revolution does occur, but if Russia holds out, the revolution might never occur.
One of the biggest things I like also is the realistic action of the pieces, the way they interact with each other. The way you have the artillery being able to support infantry, the way that subs strike first in combat, kind of mimicking the way things worked at that time period in combat.
And they do a good job in this as well, where you always have to have an infantry with your army. You can't ever deplete all your infantry, because if you ever have a tank or an artillery or aircraft or anything without an infantry there, then those pieces are lost. So it does a good job of keeping a nice blend of the pieces and reflecting the World War I aspect of an infantry heavy war.
Now, one of the things I'm not crazy about in Axis and Allies, and that's honestly almost what every Axis and Allies, and this one does it also, is when you're sitting down to play a game of Axis and Allies, you need to make sure you gave yourself lots of time to play. You're looking at, you can play for 12 hours and probably not even finish this game.
Yeah, it is a lengthy game, and the fact that they do knock combat down to just 1 round of combat per space, it really does kind of extend the length of the game. But realistically, for what you can do in this game, you can finish it. It just does take a while. It would take a long day of playing. You can't play it in 3 or 4 hours. It's going to be a long day of fun combat that really reflects World War I well.
Yeah, but you got to plan it out. There's no pickup games of Axis and Allies. The one other thing I'm not crazy about is they have mines in all the sea zones. So you move in, you have to roll dice to see if you hit mines. That really slows down the sea combat a lot and really bogs it down. It makes it so basically the guy who attacks is probably the guy who's going to lose combat because he's going to lose some ships moving into the other guy's sea zones.
Yeah, that is a unfortunate aspect to the game. We actually made some house rules. You're free to do that, where basically only certain areas have sea mines rather than all port areas, which is just way too many in this game. Another aspect that I didn't really care for, and they may have fixed it in future versions of this, is they didn't provide enough pieces to actually set up all your infantry in all the starting spaces. So you actually had to get a couple of proxy pieces to put in there. Now, I've heard that some people that didn't have enough, they wrote to the company, and the company sent them some extra pieces, which is nice on the company. And they may have fixed the lack of pieces for the initial setup in future editions of this, which I believe they're on their second or third edition of the 1914 already.
Yeah, hopefully they can fix that aspect of the game. That being said, though, it's still a pretty enjoyable game. The one thing I've always liked about Axis and Allies, and this one does it also, I am in total control of what country I'm playing. I have money for my country. I control all the production. So in that case, if I want to have a Navy-intensive country, I can choose to pursue that. Now, not necessarily all my choices are going to be maybe the best choices to win the game, but I have that option to build my army pretty much any way I want. And my idea of the way I'm going to go to victory is probably going to be different than the way that Phil's going to go about it also. And the fact that you're allowed to do that in a game is a real big draw for me.
Right. You can choose to have a larger air force or greater amounts of artillery or greater navy. You're in complete control of your forces, your economy, which is a real nice benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say that when I first heard that Axis and Allies was doing a World War I game, I was just certain they were going to do this wrong. I mean, the Axis and Allies system is a World War II system. Combat works completely differently. You've got that multiple movements, you've got the fighting until there's nobody there, and that just doesn't reflect World War I. And I was immensely surprised at the couple of changes that they did to the system to make this feel like playing World War I. I mean, it changed my opinion. I went from completely negatively viewing it to actually enjoying playing it. And I've played it 3 or 4 times already, and I've enjoyed every single time I've played.
Oh yeah, they did a great job recreating World War I effects with it. Honestly, when I heard it was World War I was too crazy about that. I'm just not the biggest World War I buff, but after playing it, I was a pretty big fan of this game.
And from my perspective, I actually have played several World War I games, including Paths of Glory and a couple of others, and I found this one refreshingly good for representing the trench warfare and the aspects of World War I that really capture that war to end all wars, make it different from playing your normal World War II game. Now, one other thing that I think was kind of an unfortunate lack in the game is they didn't include money in this. Yes, there are income for the various locations, but they didn't give you actually any paper money or anything like that. It's an inconvenience. Could have been better if they had included it, but it doesn't take much to actually figure out a way to track the money, either from a count sheet or actually just borrowing money from a regular Axis and Allies game.
Or honestly, since you're dealing with 1s, 5s, 20s for the most part, 10s, leg money at the dollar store works also. So it's pretty easy to fix actually. Just kind of a bummer they didn't include it with the game.
But as a whole, this game is definitely a must if you have an interest in World War I. It's got the nice simplicity of Axis and Allies, but it also really captures the feeling, the intensity, and the struggle that World War I was. That trench warfare, the meat grinders that occurred on the Eastern and Western Front, and the slow progression of your army one space at a time. It's really, really good flavor for this war.
I agree. And especially, I'm a fan of Axis and Allies. I say it's a must pick up if you enjoy the game, the Axis and Allies game series.
I agree. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again on our next review.